Hello all you whiskey files out there. This is Mark from WhiskyWhistle, bringing you whiskey review number 13. Thank you so much for joining. To all of the new subscribers and the old subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in all the time. And if you're just watching for the first time today, I hope that you'll enjoy this, and please do subscribe. That helps me a great deal. With us today is Oban and their 14-year-old. Oban is described as a West Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. So it's a Highland, on the west coast, in fact. We'll talk about the location soon enough. Oban, in fact, is owned by the largest Scotch whiskey conglomerate in the world called Diageo, which I've mentioned before. They are the owners of the #1 selling Scotch whiskey brand, which you may know is Johnnie Walker, among many others. Oban being one of them. Now this is the second time I've tried Oban. The first was actually on my birthday earlier this year, March 7th, in fact, and that was a round birthday for me. I won't tell you which. You can probably figure that out yourself. Anyway, a good party was had, and many a dram were enjoyed that night. And Oban was the first I had that night. When I first had it, I thought, this is quite peaty. Of course, I didn't have all that much experience with peated whiskeys at that point. I think up until then, Glenmorangie was consumed most of my whiskey drinking. Actually, I consumed it rather. But it consumed most of my whiskey drinking time. So Oban certainly felt a little bit peated compared to Glenmorangie, which is another Highland single malt Scotch whiskey, but more to the east. Very excited to get the chance to try this one. This bottle was borrowed to me by a very good friend and colleague, Aaron Allenson. So, Aaron, to you, I will raise my glass shortly once it's full. Aaron is a lover of whiskey also. And in Seoul here, if you are looking for a good place for a beer, or for a nice dram of Scotch whiskey, you can check out Philly's Pub, which is it's in a place called Haebangchon, or HBC as the expat community calls it. You can send me a message if you want to know the location, Aaron would certainly love to see you there, if there's a certain special kind of whiskey that you're interested in, you can probably, maybe you can probably contact him through the Phillies Facebook page. That's PHILLIES. And if you have a large party and you're going to go there with enough notice, he can probably procure something special for you. Okay. So let's have a look at Oban, 14-year-old. Okay. I'm sure you can see the bottle nice and clearly there. So let's just get right into the pouring, shall we? Whoops. Now, by the way, today is October 30th. 2015. Almost blanked on that one. Tomorrow's Halloween. Maybe a little bit too healthy a pour. Sorry, Aaron. And well, wherever you are, I'm not sure if Halloween is something that happens for you. In Korea here, it's not really a huge deal, although it is more and more in sort of the nightlife side of things. So there'll be piles and piles of people out tonight and tomorrow night to the popular drinking spots in Seoul to celebrate Halloween. And if you do dress up, cheers to you. I wish I had. Didn't have the time or wherewithal to get that done as part of my advancing age, I guess. Well, if you're dressed up and you're out having fun tonight or tomorrow night, cheers, and keep it good quality, and drink responsibly. Okay. Anyway, Aaron, thanks again. Cheers to you. Let's consider that a rare gift to me. So I will have to repay that in kind. I'm going to let this sit for a little while. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to wait about, well, at least 5 minutes before I drink that one. 14 years old, and the going saying, as I mentioned before, a minute in the glass for every year in the bottle, in the cask rather, pardon me. Let's start by having a look at, the canister. Is a classic sort of seaside, sort of a, what is that called? A lithograph, I believe, on the can there. Seagulls and a rocky shore. I'm guessing this is probably right close to the town of Oban in Argyll. Let's have a look at the front here. Oban, little bay of caves. Along the shores of Lorne lies a record of man far more ancient than any city in the land. The first settlers arrived on the mainland in 5000 BC and sheltered in the natural caves of the land, then known as an Ob. The Distillery Cave was one such shelter hidden in the Krigaparn cliffs which rise dramatically above the Oban Distillery. West Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. This is 750 milliliters, so it's likely produced for the US Canada market. And this is branded by Diageo as part of their classic malts of Scotland, and we'll talk a little more about that today too. 43% alcohol by volume. 7.5% more than the bare minimum. So that's good value. And if you're getting it in the US, then you get the extra 50 milliliters, which is about 2 medium-sized glasses. Anyway, on the back side, Oban, the distillery at the the distillery is at the heart of Oban, gateway to the Isles. In effect, the town grew up around the distillery, founded by John and Hugh Stevenson in 1794. Oban's attractive West Highland character reflects its location, revealing aspects of both the Highland and the Island styles. Elegant and glowing, it marries the sea air character of the Island malts to the soft, richly fruity style of the Highlands, creating its own rich-tasting West Highland malt. The stills here are among the smallest in Scotland. The cramped nature of the site places severe limits on production, which in turn mean that the demand for Oban's richly appreciated malt is always likely to exceed supply. Few malts were ever made in the West Highlands, and only 2 now remain. Oban, like its home, remains their capital. Oban is the unforgettable West Highland destination on a journey around Scotland's 6 malt whiskey making regions. The other classic malts are Glenkinchie, Lowland, Talwini, Highland, Cragganmore, Speyside, Talisker, Sky, and Lagavulin, Isla. Okay, so there you have it. And as I mentioned, it's in the town of Oban, in the district of Argyll. Argyll? Is that where the socks come from, I would gather? And the sweaters? That's that diamond pattern that goes like that, which I quite like. So, what about the bottle? Anything special there? Oh yes, there's quite a lot more there. I think that I will not read all of that. There is quite a long story there. So make sure you get a look at yourself when you're at your nearest bottle store or specialty shop, or at a bar if they let you have a look at the bottle. Well, one thing interesting here, let's see, at the very end we see, oh yeah, well, no, I think I'm not going to read that, but it mentions the clan MacDougall, so that's interesting. Okay, backside, pretty much the same as before. Drink responsibly. Nice message on all of Diageo's bottles. Okay, all right. Let's see how we're doing here. So a bit of time in the glass lets the air interact with the spirit, and some of the unwanted notes will disappear. So let's see how that is. It's very aromatic. This is something that if you pour it, it'll fill the room with the smell of West Highland single malt whiskey smells. And earlier when I was doing a little bit of tasting, opening the bottle, I noticed a little bit of peat. It's not really known for being heavily peated, and it is not heavily peated. But if you're not familiar with peat, you will find a little bit of a peaty, smoky nature to this. Back in my second review, I reviewed the former expression of Glenmorangie, which was slightly peated as well. This is a little bit more so. And there's a little bit of a floral character when you smell it from a distance. We didn't talk about the color. So I figured that's just a light amber, so slightly less, whiskey color than you might expect from a basic blended whiskey. So that's good. There is likely a little bit of caramel coloring added, and again, that's part of the branding. They want to keep the color consistent so that the consumer can expect a familiar product. Not my cup of tea as far as putting something in there, but the industry is changing, and you'll find that companies such as Diageo will be putting less and less of the color into the whiskeys. Neat. So no water. One thing that really struck me is an English style of licorice note that comes, and that so that's a fairly sweet black licorice. Not as sweet as the American style Twizzlers. That's not really licorice, but anyway, the English style licorice, they're fairly thick tubes. They've got a kind of an oily mineral oil texture put on top of it, and a little bit of aniseed flavoring added to the whiskey, to the licorice. So a little bit of licorice in the nose. I wrote down here some tart plums. So there's a fruit note, not a sweet fruit note, but something a little bit tart, and a salty sea spray kind of a note, a mild peat, and what I found with time, the longer you wait, the greater the rewards. So you will find some vanilla custard notes and slightly citrus in there as well. But it really hit me after about maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, halfway through the glass, and my nose was enveloped by this wonderful vanilla custard note. So interesting. So let's try that one. Happy Halloween, everyone. And aniseed carries through in the palate, and in fact in the finish. There's some herbal notes, fennel, which is again somewhat similar to aniseed in a way, caraway. There's a grassy note there, a sweet grass, a bit of brine, some menthol, and as far as the flavor goes, it's medium sweet, dry. So it's not really sweet, and it's not really dry, and an unripe pear note there as well. Pine nuts, toasted ones, in fact, and very mild tobacco. And the finish, the aftertaste, you're left with, again, the aniseed. There's a medium dryness left over on your palate, and fairly long finish, in fact. And there's a bit of a spearmint flavor left over. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water, not too much. That's about 3 milliliters, and I'll just put about a little bit more, so about 5 milliliters added there, and we'll let that sort of mix up a little bit. It's very drinkable neat, so even though it's a bit stronger than 40%, it's 43%, 86 proof. You'll find it entirely drinkable, neat. Why add water? Again, it helps to lift some of the fragrant chemical note. Chemical is a bad word, but you know, I mean, no matter what food you're talking about, food is made up of chemical, and so is spirit, so is apple juice. So anyway, so the fragrant chemical compounds are released a little bit more volatile, with more volatility. I can't speak today. More volatility with water, and what I get with water is a saltwater taffy note. Or a salted caramel note. So it gets a bit sweeter with water, which is interesting. And as I've come to sort of realize with water, the peaty tones kind of dissipate a little bit, and the sweetness comes a little bit more to the foreground. Very beautiful nose, in fact. Quite like it. Just for its complexity, and also I really do like licorice. In fact, it's really difficult to find good licorice here in Korea, especially the salmiak style, or the strong, or in Danish language, the stærk. So the strong licorice is impossible to find here. Regular licorice, I might be able to find it. It's not available in supermarkets, including the Tesco run Home Plus here. I don't know why they have left the beloved English all sorts, licorice all sorts from the Tesco run stores here. A little bit sad about that. If you're listening, Home Plus, licorice all sorts, please. Licorice all sorts, 제출해주세요. Okay, 제출, 제공해주세요. Please offer licorice all sorts in your stores. Yes, so usually when I travel, I bring home lots of licorice. Anyway, less about licorice and more about Oban. With water, let's have another taste. And the flavor also goes from being medium sweet dry to becoming medium sweet. So that's interesting. So it brings out the sweetness, a little bit less herbal notes. Very lovely. And the finish is also, I mean, not really changed, but a little bit more of that sweet spearmint note will be noticed, I think. So anyway, very, very, very delicious single malt Scotch whiskey from the West Highland region. So it's about that time. Let's give it a mark first, okay? Well, I'm really enjoying this, and so I'm going to give this a mark of 89 out of 100. So 89 points out of 100 for Oban 14-year-old, the standard official bottling, 43%. Wonderful product. Diageo, you've done a great job with keeping this distillery sort of leaving it to its own devices, its own skilled devices. Excuse me. Just a little bit about the distillery. So it was founded in 1794. So it is one of the older distilleries, in fact. The distillery came first, and then the town built up around it. I think not because so much of the distillery itself, but might have played a part in the fact that being close to the water, the product needs to get out, and one way that product would have gotten out would have been by ship. So that starts a little bit of the port gets built up around things that need to be shipped. Anyway, so that's the story there. Again, founded by John and Hugh Stevenson. And it exchanged hands a few times to private owners. Then in 1923, Dewars, or Dewars, however you pronounce it. I believe it's Dewars is the correct pronunciation. Dewars picked it up, which became the Distillers Company, PLC, and which was in turn bought by United Distillers, which eventually became Diageo. So that's how that goes. Well, I mentioned it's part of the classic malts, so we'll talk about that shortly. The distillery closed twice after the First World War, from 1931 to 37, and then again from 1969 to 72, while they were building a new still house. Took them quite a long time to build a new still house, but anyway. Production-wise, they produce 700,000 liters of pure alcohol per year. So quite a bit smaller than a lot of the other distilleries run by Diageo. And they have 2 small stills. Anyway, here are the classic malts. So that's a range of 6 whiskeys that I mentioned before. So you can see the bottles there. There's the bottle that we're working with today. There's the map. So Isle of Mull is here, Islay is there, Jura, and Oban, if you can see that, that's right there. There's a view of the shore and a bit of the water from the distillery. Gorgeous shot. Here's a shot of the town, and there's a distillery nestled right in the town. One of the few Scotch whiskey distilleries to be located actually urban. And here is the front door there. Very cool building. And the 2 small stills. They look kind of big, however, but you know, when you're talking thousands and thousands of liters, they're pretty small. One of the maturation warehouses. Love to sneak in there. And then we're back to the classic malts. Thanks to Aaron, I will have been able to test and review all of them. So that's great. 4 of my own and 2 of his. So, well, I'm so happy that you joined. Again, I am Mark Allen Kaufman. I've never told you my full name before, but there you are. And I am the person behind WhiskyWhistle, which is still in its infancy, but more to come. You can check out the website at whiskywhistle.com. Facebook, WhiskyWhistle. It's just one word. But don't forget, there's no E on whiskey. The way I write it, Scotland and Canada both don't use E's. Twitter at WhiskyWhistle, Naver blog, WhiskyWhistle, and finally YouTube, also WhiskyWhistle. Please join again next time. We're going to be looking back to Islay and another classic malt. So I think you can guess what that is. It starts with an L, and it's probably one of 2 most famous, most sought after Islay single malts. Well, I'll tell you, that's Lagavulin. So I'm looking forward to that. Stay tuned, subscribe, share it with your friends, and again, happy Halloween. Woo!